so we go on with the perfections, if that's okay for you, and then I have two, three questions here, and then I'll answer those, and then if you have any other questions, you can ask, and then do a final meditation before we stop and go home. Okay? Okay, so the next concentration would be, the next perfection would be concentration, right? But here you have what is put is the 9 stages, so we're not going to go through them, because again, it would be just a course by itself, actually, what exactly they are. But just for you to know, maybe, because sometimes people get quite despaired, you know, they say, oh, I can't meditate, the mind is not staying on the object, and all this. So the first step of practicing shamatha, or concentration, is placing the mind. Meaning, placing the mind, meaning knowing what object you're going to look at. And shamatha is not the same as one does in vipassana retreats. Shamatha is you choose an object, be it the breath, in, out, not even the aspect of the breath, just that, because you want to have a really calm and quiet mind. Or you choose also the figure of a Buddha, or any other, or it can be a stone, it doesn't really matter. But the Buddha, they say, because you get familiar with the Buddha image, and at the time of death this can be helpful because then you can visualize, and they say it creates a virtue if you take a virtuous object, which is about maybe this big, and you visualize it in front of you. And then first you only have, again, kind of an idea that something is there. And then slowly you see the outlines, and then slowly you start to put in the details. Yeah? So this would be practice, the object would be practicing with the Buddha image. And then another one can be the nature of your mind. But nature of your mind, even though it sounds very lofty and very kind of wow, you know, it's difficult because you don't know if you really have the right object, or you know, people are kind of confused when they start to practice this, they are not sure if I'm having the right object. So nature of your mind means when you do what we call here vipassana, you are usually looking at the body and at sensations and at mind states and thinking about the Four Noble Truths or whatever, yeah? So the nature of the mind, when you do that, you make a step back and you look at what is having these sensations, what is having these thoughts, yeah? So at one point in your practice you will be doing that anyway, sometimes called Mahamudra, sometimes called Dzogchen. Like, not so much the content of the mind, but the mind itself. You see what I mean? If you have, it's not a good example, but maybe it helps. If you have an aquarium and fish, usually you concentrate on the fish. You're not concentrating on the water. Yeah? Or if you have a picture also, you concentrate on what the picture contains, not on what the picture is on. So the mind is like an empty canvas, actually, the mind itself. And then through our consciousness, through our thoughts and ideas and tendencies and all this, we start to paint. So we do paint our own story, kind of. And the more disturbed the mind is, the more horrible that kind of story becomes. But we don't have free will to paint whatever we want, because we paint according to what has happened to us before. Yeah? The same way, who do you think is creating your dreams? Who? You or somebody else? Huh? Is everybody sure about this, that we are creating our own dreams? Nobody else. Are you also sure that you are creating your life?
Part of it.
I think the dreams, what part of me is creating, I don't know.
Huh?
Like don't know what kind of me is creating my dreams.
But we're sure that we are creating our dreams. Nobody else is. I can't create your dreams.
Yes.
It's your mind that is creating the dreams.
Yeah, but I don't know what kind of me is creating.
What kind of?
Me.
What kind of me is
Ah,
creating?
we forget about the me. Here, it's the mind. Yeah? It's the mind who is creating the dreams. And in Buddhism, one would say, it's also the mind who is totally creating your own life. Nothing else.
But in interaction with other minds.
But the way you experience, I cannot go into your mind. You're the only one who can go into your mind. I can't influence your mind. Do you see what I mean? And each one experiences the world in the way that I experience the world the way only through my mind, through nobody else's mind. Yeah? So that's what we don't understand.
There is something out there that my mind reacts to.
The same way in the dream, what is out there that the mind reacts to?
Memories? It's also in the mind.
What is out there that the mind reacts to in the dream? By what is it created that what the mind is reacting to?
It's memories or maybe ideas.
So what is memory?
But it's in the mind.
It's in the mind.
Yeah, so it's only in the mind. The dream
Yeah.
is only in the mind.
Yeah, but outside is not only in the mind.
Not only.
Okay.
Next month.
Huh? Next month. It's only in the mind.
Only?
Only in the mind. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but the way you see it is only in your mind.
Yeah, this is.
Because there's nothing real out there. And this is, you see, we kind of believe both. We say, yeah, it's only in my mind. Yet there's still something out there. This is like saying, I dream, but there is somebody real coming into my dream. It's like saying that.
Can I continue a little bit more?
Huh?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah?
For me, because in the dream I'm completely free, my mind is completely free to dream whatever it wants.
You sure?
You decide.
So you must have wonderful dreams all the time. If you are completely free to dream whatever you want.
So it's less limited. It has
My
more
dreams-
choice of what to dream about.
My dreams sometimes are very confused. If I would have a choice, I would definitely not dream that.
But your mind chose it, not you. The mind,
There's
this is
no
what the
I.
mind chose to
Of
dream.
course, what is I is also the mind. It's not the mind. I is not the mind. Okay.
So the mind
It's
chooses
a
what
part
to
of the
dream.
mind. I don't know if it's a choosing. It's a ripening of memories and karmic imprints and views and all these kind of things. That's what it is. Huh?
But all these things are contained in the mind. All the things
All
that
of it,
ripen are
yeah.
contained in the mind.
All of it.
And when I'm awake, my mind is limited. I cannot perceive the world where David is not sitting next to me. And this is not contained in my
But
mind.
also when you dream, do you have lucid dreams that you can really choose and say, no, this one I don't want next to me, but go away?
No.
You cannot. It just looks, when you are in the dream, it's just as real as now. And this is from the Buddha and us, this is why it's called awake. We wake up from the thing that something real is out there. This is what it means. Okay, we're coming back to the concentration here. So the first step is just to placing the mind, just to know what your object is. And then the next step is replacing the mind. That means it's normal that the mind goes away and then you bring it back and then it goes away and then you bring it back and then it goes away and you bring it back. And then as you go along, then it stays. Actually, oh wow, I made a lot of mistakes in this one. Because here's placing the mind and then it should be replacement before. I think I have to redo this whole thing. So you're replacing the mind. So at the beginning, let's say your mind is maybe 2% on the object and 98% is awake. Yeah? But as you keep bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back, then the time where it stays on the object is longer. And also at the beginning, your thoughts are very much in the foreground, whereas the concentration is very weak. Whereas as you continue with this practice, what it does is then all of a sudden you have about 50% here, 50% not here, and then it increases the time when you are there, and then you start to work with like clarity and these kind of things. Okay, but it's like, as I'm saying, one thing is I would need a text to really go through the steps that it is, and usually it's Glenn doing that, no, with you. Okay.
What is clarity?
Huh?
What does clarity means in this?
What does?
You said clarity, then clarity comes.
Clarity, to see things as they are.
Ah, okay. This clarity.
So first you relax the mind, then you make it stable, and then it becomes clear. So this is what you want to develop with your shamatha meditation. Not to feel good or not to feel good. That's a practice in order to have a stable and a clear mind. So what you're practicing for, you have stability and clarity. And clarity for what? To see the things as they are. Yeah? Not existing out there from their own side. This is the thing. And for us, it's so inconceivable because everything is so real. But then again, if you look from scientists, when you ask them, what is this? And you go further and further and further down, it's only space, they say. And how many percent matter? Very little. I don't see any space in this table. Yeah. So this is why the mind is producing all this. But things do exist on a nominal level as a dependent arising. So then when Lama Zopa Rinpoche usually is asked, but what is this conventional reality? He says, it's so subtle that you would not understand it, which goes very much in the direction of quantum physics. What is really there? Everything else is just a projection. So they're not saying the life out there is an illusion. They say it's like an illusion. Okay? So this is, you go step by step, this is how you would develop what is called shamatha. And shamatha is really a very high mind, which means when you have achieved it, then your mind, or you can concentrate, you can be with the object for at least 4 hours, effortlessly. Yeah, so I think we have to go a little bit. Yeah. And also Venerable Rene, who has, I can't remember which stage he was, he said when he got advice from Geshe Lama Konchok, it's like, you see, first we're too tense, so then that's why the mind is not staying. But then very often we are too lax. So Geshe Lama Konchok, he didn't speak any English, but and Rene didn't speak any Tibetan, so he said, shine, object, like this. Not like this, but really like this. You have to hold it if you practice if you practice shamatha. And usually we hold it too loose. This is why it goes away. It's not that our mind is relaxed, but the object, we hold it too relaxed. So this is why also, when you practice shamatha, it's good to make short sessions, like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, but then you don't get up and have tea, but you release the concentration and you rest, and then you take the object back again and you hold it quite firmly. Yeah? So again, but that is Glenn's thing, that he will teach you all that. Now we come to the wisdom, which is the wisdom about how things exist, meaning as empty of inherent existence. We come into that, but first maybe I want to tell you, any of these, at least, generosity, ethical conduct, patience, at least the first 3, they look like mitzvahs, doesn't it? You know what a mitzvah is?
Yes.
Okay. They look like, again, so you have to do this, then you're a good person and all this. They only become a perfection, like the perfection of generosity, if you include the other 5. Meaning, if you practice the perfection of generosity, you do this with ethical conduct. Means you're not going to steal the money, then to be very generous. If you have stolen money, for example, or if you have cheated and you want to make up for it, and it's not possible to give that back, whatever you got, then it's okay to think, okay, I'm giving it to a charity or something like that, in order to make up for your negative, for the cheating or for the stealing. But that's not really then the practice of the perfection of generosity. Do you see what I mean? Okay. You do it with ethical conduct, you do it with patience, meaning even though the person doesn't say thank you, you still continue to give. You do it with enthusiastic effort, we do it with a lot of joy. Why? Again, because we understand if somebody allows me to give them something now, and if it's one of the 6 perfections, they actually, they become the cause for my own enlightenment. So then you don't need other people to say thank you. And again, in Asia, it is like this. You see, if the monks or the nuns go on Pindapat, like alms round, they don't do it in the Tibetan tradition, but I'm sure they do it in Sri Lanka, and they do it in Thailand. You must have seen the monks in Thailand. So you have the bowl, and it's covered with a plate, and you just very silently, you're standing in front of a house, somebody comes out wanting to give you something, you don't look at the person, you lift the cover, you close it, you do not like that. You don't look at them, and you go. Again, in the West, that wouldn't work, because people would say, wow, they're not grateful, they're not saying thank you, right? Because why? Because everybody understands it is thanks to the monks who are holding their vows and people giving them something that they create a lot of positive energy. So they don't need to say thank you.
Same like Orthodox Jews.
Huh?
Same Orthodox Jews say that they are praying and doing stuff, so they're doing it for the rest.
Okay. So, but if we would do that, if I would do that in the West, not saying thank you when people give me things, I think they would stop very quickly to give me things. Yeah, it is expected here that one says thank you. That's also the custom. How did we get onto the Pinda part? Remember where did we come from? So we talked about the 6 perfections. Yeah, enthusiastic effort. Also, I'm getting tired actually. So enthusiastic effort. You do it with a lot of joy, the generosity, because not only it will create that I won't have to worry about my things in the future, but it will also create my enlightenment. You do it with concentration, as I said, knowing to give what, to whom, at what time. Like you would never, a Theravadin monk, please never, or even a nun also, never offer them food after midday. Now it's not that the Tibetans don't have that vow, they just don't keep it. Okay? Because also they adapted, because Tibet is a cold country. So, only eating 1 meal a day in a cold country, the body cannot survive. So that's why they did, but it's also laziness or whatever, so they just don't keep the vow. It has totally fallen apart. So when it is about monks keeping vows, the Theravadin monks much better than the Tibetan monks, because they put a lot of effort into keeping these vows, and then it makes it also very difficult, and many people give up because it's too difficult. So again, I can't say this is better than that. And then you do it with wisdom, and this is important, the wisdom of emptiness. I, the one who is giving the gift itself, and the one who is receiving the gift, totally empty of any inherent existence. And even if it's just words, but it's, I, because when you say I, then at least when you say I, which I, what I, as you said, what kind of I? What I is giving the gift? Huh? Where do you feel your I? Where do you feel it, your I? When you say, I'm hurt. Huh? Yeah, but when we say I, where do you feel your I?
In the body. body maybe?
In the heart, not that maybe. We feel it here, or in the stomach sometimes. Yeah, so this eye definitely can't give anything. How can this eye here give something? It's impossible. So it's the body that gives, or it's the mind who plans to give. So is your eye the mind, or is your eye the body? See, we're sure that this eye exists, doesn't it?
No.
As it, huh? Who said no? You're not sure if it exists or not.
We use it because it's a form of speech.
Yeah. This is the right view. This is exactly the right view. If we would have really understood it, we would be out of samsara. So we know it up here maybe, and that's already a very good step. But then the habit of grasping onto it, this is still very, very strong. So we have two things that we have two enemies. One is clinging to a self, and the other one is cherishing it. Yeah, like the eye appears, especially when something negative happens. Yeah, then we feel it in here. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So then we cling to it as if it's real. Now, what's your name?
Maya.
As Maya says, but actually the eye is just a convention. If that would be very deep knowledge, even though it would appear, we would go, oh, you hear, it's just a convention. But no, it's like we grasp at it, we cling at it, we hold it as real. And then we start to cherish it. So these two bodhicittas, yeah, like conventional bodhicitta where you practice generosity, ethical conduct, patience, effort and concentration, this kind of harms the clinging or the grasping at the self, especially the wisdom part, when you study emptiness. Yeah? It weakens it. It weakens the clinging a bit, because at least there's an idea, the eye appears, but it's not there. Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist the way that it appears. When you talk about emptiness, you never just say it doesn't exist. You go like, it doesn't exist the way that it appears. It appears as a third entity, something more than the body and the mind. That's how it appears at that moment. Then when you just walk along the street, you don't feel it. It's not there. You don't need to know body is walking, mind is looking, seeing things. But then when a wild pig comes, which sometimes they might have some here because you see one. Yeah, because the Japanese garden is totally kind of put upside down. So they must go there. And I remember at one point in Tuval, like Elon and Yaron, for the precepts, they came up like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that path there in the bushes, so there's a pig appeared, and Yaron got such a fright that he jumped into the arms of Elon. And then you can feel the eye, Like they say, or for example, you would walk out of a shop, and then the alarm system goes off. Everybody looks at you and says, thief! And you go, what would you say? Huh? You would go, who? Me? And you would even point here. Then you would feel it very, very strong, especially when we are cued strongly. It's like, whoosh, yeah? Or if you're about to fall off a cliff also. Yeah? So we are a combination of body and mind that changes moment by moment by moment by moment. But this feeling of separate me or separate I, that's permanent, that doesn't change. You still feel the same I now than from this morning, isn't it? And from yesterday and from before you came here. You know that maybe your mind has changed, and we know that the body has changed, if we're kind of being honest. It changes, it goes towards its decay, but the I who possesses the body and the mind, that one is still the same. And that's the illusion, that this I exists really as a third entity possessing the body and the mind. But it appears like this, and then we believe it, yeah? And then we start to cherish it. So studying about emptiness, that kind of loosens up the clinging a bit, and giving things away and practicing ethical conduct, even though it's not comfortable, practicing patience, that loosens up the self-cherishing. I am the most important thing in this world. So this is why the two bodhicittas, they start to harm these two enemies that we have. A belief in a really existent I, and then the kind of looking after it and pampering it and all this. Yeah? This is why conventional bodhicitta takes care of self-cherishing, and ultimate bodhicitta takes care of clinging to an I. Maybe a bit better about emptiness, so how things exist. I don't know if you will be able to see it in the back. What is this? Huh? What is this? A. What is it? For the camera. What is it?
A letter.
Three
Three
lines.
lines.
Three lines.
Exactly. 3 lines. Is it really 3 lines? We go deeper down.
Sequence of dots.
Many
It's on
lines.
paper.
Many lines, exactly, because I have to do many. It's ink on paper. You go to look for the paper. There's not one element of paper in here. Yeah? But coming back to the A. This is a merely labeled A. Now, what is the basis to put A?
Conventional.
Yeah, what is the like, but as I said, when you, for things to come into existence, you need a basis, you need a name, and a mind who gives it a name. Okay, mind who labels it. So what is the basis here for A?
The order of the lines.
The 3 lines. Yeah, that's a valid base for A. It's just a convention. Yeah. What is the label?
A.
A. Now, if there's nobody looking at this, is this an A?
No.
Is this even 3 lines?
Ink on a paper.
Is this, huh?
Ink on a paper.
Ink on paper. Is this even ink on paper when nobody recognizes it as ink?
Yes.
Yeah, we think yes.
No.
They say no. They say no, because the ink is also, where is the ink? The ink is color and chemicals and I don't know what. So we have a conventional I. What is the basis for this conventional I?
The body and the mind.
The body and the mind.
Our interaction.
No, the body and the mind. The body and the mind is the basis to put on a label, I and me or whatever. That's the basis. But then we add something to this basis. We add real existence, independent existence. We think that the I can exist without the body and the mind. Well, you take away the body and you take away the mind, what can you still have? What?
Karmic imprints.
Huh?
Karmic imprints.
Our?
Karmic imprints.
Well, they're on the mind. So it's like saying, I don't have a body, but I still have a nose. So if the mind goes, that also goes. They also need a container. Where would they be, these karmic imprints? It's a good thought, though. But where would they be? Yeah. Don't forget, we're not just taking the karmic imprints with us. We take the karmic imprints with the very subtle mind with us. Yeah. So probably it's my mistake, because I said the only thing that we're taking with us is our karmic imprints, but I meant kind of as possessions.
So the only thing that we are taking with us is the mind?
Well, not the body, but we take. Well, now we go into kind of very subtle things. They say the subtle mind leaves the body at the time of death on a what is called subtle drop, which then becomes the body again. But the body really is sperm and egg.